Who's your money on to be the next UKIP leader? Paddy Power, you beauty!
Michael Heaver here with UKIP leadership contender David Kurten. David, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good stuff. So the first question, how's the campaign going?
You know, I'm actually quite exhausted. It's been a very long campaign. We've been going for 8 weeks or so. I've done about 25 different hustings and branch meetings, and hey, it's been very good. You know, I've really enjoyed going around the country and meeting people and meeting members and seeing what their concerns are. And it's a tight race. You know, I think I'm one of the front runners, but you know, it's still, no one can really say who's going to win with any certainty, so it's going to be interesting.
Now, in terms of the hustings, what you're saying to the members, what they're saying to you, how's that all going? You
know, the hustings have been very, very positive, and they've been packed rooms all over the country. And you know what, I think the members are taking this very, very seriously. You know, we are the victory of the referendum, and then of course it hasn't worked out for the party, for UKIP, as we'd expected. So people really want to get this right. They want to get the right leader. They want a leader who's stable, a leader who has a vision for the party and can take the party forward and start to win seats again. And people are really concerned for the future, but also I think very positive and very happy with, you know, myself and some of the other candidates, and they see quality in some of the candidates. So I get that feeling from the members as well.
Okay, and in terms of your vision, what's distinct, what sets you apart, do you feel, from the other leadership contenders in this race?
Well, I mean, I would say I'm the socially conservative candidate. So, I mean, that sets me apart from some of the others. And of course, you know, I would agree with 80% of what people say. And we want to, you know, put Brexit as the number one priority. That's got to still remain the number one priority of the party until we actually win the peace and we actually do finally come out of the EU. But, you know, in terms of the vision for the party, the vision for the future of the country, I talk about education a lot, you know, and obviously I talk about we need to be self-sufficient in skills as a country, which is something not many other people are talking about. There's one specific very, very serious worry that people have in families up and down the country, which is what the Conservative Party, which is not Conservative anymore, want to push in schools, which is the transgender agenda and teaching. They want to teach kids essentially that they're not boys and girls, and this is going to cause a lot of confusion and a lot of damage to children's natural development. And I think there's a lot of concern about that. I talk about that, you know, and I also talk about financial responsibility, which is what, you know, UKIP have been talking about for a long time, not spending money on overseas development, HS2, etc. I mean, that's something we've said before, but you know, I reiterate that. And that sets clear blue water between us and all the other political parties.
Now, there has been some controversy over some of your comments. You've been accused of being homophobic and anti-gay. How do you respond to that?
Well, the best comment I had was I'm a homophobic coconut, which I thought was quite an interesting insult, quite a creative insult. But you know, I answered a survey. I answer, you know, hundreds of questions, but I answered a survey by a group called Support for the Family, asking about marriage and so on. I said my views are marriage is between a man and a woman, and that's a viewpoint held by, you know, a significant minority of people in the country. And I think you should always be able to have that view without any fear of penalty or punishment. But you know, I expected to get some you know, a little bit of backlash from these outlets like the Pink News, the Mirror and so on, but I was actually quite surprised by some of the viciousness of the attack from within the party itself, you know, which I think is surprising, because UKIP is a party of freedom of speech, and you know, you wouldn't expect people then to say, you know, it's a perfectly reasonable opinion, it's a traditional opinion, but you had people calling for me to be thrown out of the leadership contest, stripped of my spokesman role, stripped of the whip in the London Assembly and so on. So that was surprising.
Now, you're a former teacher. You know, some might say that stands you in good stead in terms of dealing with squabbling kids in a political party. Do you think there's anything that you've learnt from that role that you'd bring into the leadership of the party?
Well, absolutely. I mean, teaching, you have to be multi-talented, you have to multitask, be multi-skilled. I mean, obviously, communicating your message, you have to be planned, you have to be organised, you have to plan what you're going to do. You have to keep 10, 20 different things in your head at one time, what you got to do. And you also got to remember all the different people and the different needs of different students and pupils in your class. And so, I think the main thing that will bring is the communication skills, and to understand that communication is not just about what you say, but it's about what people hear as well. And I think people say, and I do believe it as well, I communicate effectively and I communicate in a way which people warm to and people respond to and gets the message across without alienating people. I think that's very important in a leader who's putting a message across.
Now, obviously, probably the biggest issue for any UKIP leader is going to be the issue of Brexit, something that's dominating the news, dominating the political agenda. How do you see what's going on with the negotiations with the EU and the British government's performance in those negotiations?
Well, I mean, the government, you don't really know what they're saying. It's 1 minute they're, standing up and, appearing to be tough in the negotiations, and then someone else comes out, like Amber Rudd just recently, I think yesterday, saying, we should be soft on immigration. And so you really don't know what they're doing. It seems to be in chaos. And then the EU negotiators, we had Verhofstadt earlier this week saying he still deplores Brexit, which is an insult to the British people. So I don't see the negotiations are going very well. And UKIP's point of view on this is we should just leave. We should have left already.
So if you were a leader, you'd be pushing sort of to leave the EU straight away.
Well, we have an excellent Brexit spokesman, Gerard Batten, who sets it all out. What we need to do step by step and how. We need to write the laws in the areas we've outsourced, into British law, and then we just need to leave, and then we can go through those, and we can keep the ones that we need, and then repeal the ones that we don't need. And then we always say that the EU's got more to gain from a trade deal with us than we have with them. There's absolutely no reason for them to be putting the cat amongst the pigeons with this. Really is no reason at all.
Now, one of the biggest stumbling blocks in these negotiations has been the Brexit bill, with Brussels demanding a bumper payout. We've seen some research today suggesting, in fact, it could be the EU that owes the UK 9.3 billion. If you were UKIP leader, what would be your stance on any Brexit bill that UK might face?
Well, I mean, they obviously do. They owe us some things because we do have a share in the European Development Bank and some of the buildings in Brussels. There have been some commitments over the next year or two. If we stay in until 2019, then we should pay those commitments for that time. But I think it would balance out. But there's absolutely no need. Absolutely, completely wrong to suggest that we need to pay a bill of tens of billions of pounds. It's absolutely preposterous. I mean, this is being framed as a divorce, and we're the party that's wronged the EU in some way and that we need to pay a big bill to leave. Well, it's not a divorce. We're leaving the club. When you leave a club, you stop paying your membership. Simple as that. We just need to leave and go. Simple.
And finally, what if you were elected as UKIP leader at the end of the month? What would be your what would you be aiming for over the next few years to achieve? Where would you want to take the party? Where would you want to see yourself and the party and UKIP in a couple of years?
In the last election, I think there were millions of people who had at one time or another considered voting for UKIP, but didn't because they didn't believe we could win on the first past the post system. And a lot of people voted for someone they really didn't want to vote for in the last election to keep someone else out. Lots of people voted Conservative to keep out Jeremy Corbyn and vice versa. But if we just get our act together, if we place ourselves as the party of a full democratic Brexit, a party which is socially and financially conservative, I think that will attract those millions of people who want that kind of party, who will build up the nation again, and not just to tackle, the external threat of the EU, but tackle the internal threat of cultural Marxism. And there's quite a big correlation between the sort of people who want to dissolve the nation, if you like, into a globalist proto-state, the EU, and also the same people who want to dissolve communities, who want to dissolve family, marriage, gender, who want to get into our education and make it dumbed down and make it all very, very left-wing so that people don't know how to stand on their own 2 feet. We need to fight that. And we need, from our education system, right at the bottom with our young people, to build it up again. So we have a system that trains people with skills, that makes us proud of our country once again. And that's what I want UKIP to be.
David Kurten, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Who's your money on to be the next UKIP leader? Paddy Power, you beauty!